Okay, gentlemen, here we have our Whisper Green Select fan. This is the model we use a lot. I want to talk through how it works, in part so you know and you can tell customers accurate information, but also because we're always relaying information to our electricians. So here we have the fan powered. This is a pretty normal circumstance for the way we're installing it. Constant power, a dry switch or dry contact, which means the red signal wires are run to a wall switch that is unpowered. If the electrician or you guys power this, it'll ruin the control. So these wires are either capped or run to a dry switch. So it's off. The fan will run at low RPM initially and then turn itself back off. That's just because it just got powered on. Let's start with the simplest module. I don't actually have it in hand. We don't use it much, but there's your motion sensor. It goes right in this little center port. That centerpiece snaps out. As an aside, when you guys install one of these fans, do not leave these grills on site. Put it back in its little bag here and bring it back to be put on the shelf. If you leave it on site, it will get damaged. Also, they give us these neat little mounting brackets. Sometimes we use them, sometimes we don't. But this is real fun. See, that's designed to be removed. And you can see from the little picture there, this thing that gets thrown away all the time is designed to be put in there. The little cardboard tabs go in these 2 points, and it keeps paint and drywall mud out of the thing. If you combine that with unplugging this little guy, a little much to do with one hand. Oh, there we go. So you unplug that, put that in place, and now you can walk away knowing that the drywall guys and paint guys can go nuts, and all they're going to do is get paint and drywall mud on here and maybe just the leading edge. They're not going to ruin our fan. They're not going to run the fan constantly, taking in a bunch of drywall and construction dust. That way we can deliver an actual new fan to our client. But let's go back to normal operation. Remember, it's powered, so when I plug it in, after a second, it will start to run. So this is the simplest installation situation. There's no modules in place. I don't know why you would buy this fan and use it this way, because the Whisper ceiling acts like this. So think of that as the light switch in this situation. You walk into the bathroom, turn it on, or in this case, plug it in, and the fan comes on like normal, because none of the modules are in place, and this switch is off, so think of those 2 wire nuts as capped. Now, as soon as I put a module in, it starts to respond differently. Now it's an automated fan. See, it immediately shut off. That humidity module is set at 80%. We also use this low speed module to satisfy Title 24 all the time. You can set that module at different time delays and different CFM ratings. So we're working with the 0511 model, so that lowest rating is 30 CFM. So 10-minute time delay, and it goes to 30 CFM. Let's talk about that. You'll notice the fan's spinning up, but it's not going to come up to the speed we were at. So the time delay is about how long it runs at higher RPM, which would be whatever number you have that set at, before reducing to the low RPM it's at now. Because I just snapped that module in, it doesn't see that there was any other demand before it was installed. So we're running at 30 CFM right now, real low. Now you'll notice, of course, there's no duct on it. If you put duct on it and create resistance, the fan motor will actually spin faster to overcome that resistance. These little guys are pretty smart. You'll also notice 4-inch collar, 6-inch collar. Almost always I want smooth duct on these, and 6 inches best, especially if you expect it to operate at 150 CFM. A 4-inch duct just won't do 150 CFM unless it's a 90 and right out the wall. And even then, that's a lot of resistance for that much hair. They do give you a fancy little resistance chart here. It tells you a lot, but what it doesn't tell you is the resistance value for 4-inch duct at any given length. You'll have to use your duct calculator for that. So back to the mechanics of the machine. We're spinning at 30 CFM right now, low and slow. And it's because that's where I have that set. Now if we imitate an outside demand, so in this case I'm going to turn this way down. I'm just in the shop now. Humidity is nowhere near 30%. It's probably 65% in here. She's slowly speeding up now. So right now, it's searching for 150 CFM because that gave it a demand. The motion sensor, this little guy over here, would do the same thing. If you're worried about where these will go, see that little white plug on there? You can't screw it up. Each one of the little plugs is different. You just can't put it in the wrong spot. But I guess if you're trying to force it, you might want to slow down and rethink what you're doing because you're probably putting it in the wrong spot. So we've got a demand because the humidity is higher than the set point. So it's trying to reduce humidity in the bathroom right now. Obviously that's never going to happen, but this is an example. So we're going to turn it back off and remove the demand. Now these do respond slow under normal circumstances. If I did that, it'd take it a good 30 seconds to see a reduction in RPM and then it would slowly back down. But remember, we have a timer module on it. So it's going to wait 10 minutes before that RPM drops. It'll do the same with the motion sensor. So either one of these modules on the left create a demand. This module controls how low the low RPM is and how long it takes before it goes to the low RPM after an outside demand from either of these or the switch. So constant power is what you're telling the electrician. It's right here. Otherwise, how could a module turn it on? You can't have constant low RPM operation, humidity-based operation, or motion sensor operation unless it has constant power. But clients want a wall switch. So that's the second step for the electrician. We can make it all automated and not give them a wall switch. Then we're just capping these red wires. But to give them a wall switch, we have to extend the red wires down to a switch. And when I say we in a construction environment, that's on the electrician. Electricians mess this up constantly. If they put line voltage to these red wires, they're done. And I mean immediately. Not the wires, the control inside. This is a dry contact. So we're off right now. I'm going to kill the timer down to 0. It'll take a few seconds, but that blower RPM will decrease back down to the 30 CFM because we're not calling for humidity. There is no motion sensor module and the switch is still off. So now in this example, this is the third installation possibility. There's a light switch connected to the signal wires. Now that gets a little bit weird if there's a home automation system. Then the electrician has to run those back to wherever the home automation equipment is and connect those to a dry contact there, which is just going to be a relay off the automation system. A lot of the high-end homes we have do things like that. And again, the electrician's going to want to say, oh, well, I'll just run power from the lighting system up to this. Well, if he does that, he'll ruin the fan immediately. So here's our fan back to 30 CFM. The switch is off. The client walks in the bathroom and says, I'm going to use the toilet or take a shower. I want the fan on. That could be the relay in the lighting system, or that could be a switch on the wall, just like this. Fan RPM comes up. And just like a demand for dehumidification or the motion sensor signal, the time delay is involved here. Now I've got it set at 0, but if we turn it back up, there I hit 5 minutes that time. And I go and turn this light switch off, so the customer has left the bathroom. The fan is going to continue to run at full RPM for whatever that timer is set at. And I can turn it down to 0, and it will slowly slow down again. So, quick review. You can do a light switch with wire nuts on these, no modules at all. It'll act like a normal bath fan. It's an expensive normal bath fan, but you have control over speed. Otherwise, it's just on and off. And there's a delay. There's a processor in this. So you give it power here from a light switch, just like a normal fan. And those are capped, the red wires. Little time delay, and it'll slowly start walking up to full RPM based on your setting there. So that's the first installation situation. Second would be Those are still capped, the red wires. We're automated now. Usually it's these two in that situation. So we want it to respond to humidity. We want constant RPM at low, which is what it's doing right now. It's slowed back down. And we can preset a time delay. Usually we'll set that for 30 minutes, which would mean somebody goes in, takes a shower, the humidity goes up, triggering this. Even after the humidity drops, it continues to run for 30 minutes. Same for the motion sensor. So it's all automated. Client has no control over it. Motion and humidity, start it and stop it. But it always runs at a minimum RPM. Last situation is the same. We still have module or modules in it, but now we've given them the dry contact. Here we are running at low RPM. Client walks in the bathroom and doesn't want to wait for humidity. There is an motion sensor, which is a common situation. Those motion sensors tend to irritate people, and they turn on the switch. The unpowered dry contact switch. That part's very important. RPM comes up, and the client gets what they want. And because of the normal 30-minute time delay, even when we turn it off, the fan continues to run at high RPM for 30 minutes. Last thing to note is we often use high-end grills with these as opposed to the plastic one they come with. Architectural Grill makes a linear bar grill that will cover this with a removable core. It's very important to note that the bracket that holds this fan in, they come out so easy, the whole thing. Unplug that guy, pull a couple of screws, the whole thing slides right out at you, which is great. Except this is a 10 by 10 opening, and architects love to specify a 10 by 10 grill with a removable core for this. The problem is every grill has a flange at the back that sticks in about ½ inch all the way around, and you're not getting that fan module out. You may get the individual controls out, but if the motor in here fails, or the blower wheel fails, or the processor in here fails, the whole thing's got to come out. So we always specify 11 by 11 grills, which puts the flange on the removable grill here instead of here. That's a really important detail, and it comes up a lot. Otherwise, years down the road, when the service tech goes to replace this motor, we're cutting drywall, even though we have a removable grill. All right, ask questions from there. Thanks, guys.